With great excitement, I present unto you our speaker for today, Sister Aisha Abdul Hadi. She's completed her Bachelor's of Science in Psychology from University of Birmingham, UK. She's completed her Master's of Science in Developmental Psychopathology from Durham University, UK. And she's also completed her Master of Science in Speech and Language Therapy from Newcastle University, UK. Alhamdulillah, Sister Aisha Abdul Hadi currently works as a specialist pediatric speech therapist in the UK National Health Service and in English primary schools. She's the founder of Quran Quest, an international online coaching platform created to bring mothers and children together through parenting values in light of the Quran and Sunnah. As a certified positive disciplined parent educator, these lessons are not just taught but implemented in daily life as a homeschooling mother of 7 and member of the Central Mosque Committee. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, you should be able to see my screen as well, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, yes.
Okay. Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure to be here again. I'd like to obviously take this opportunity to first of all thank Aspire College for organizing this talk, which I hope that you will all find beneficial, inshallah, and congratulate them on all of their achievements so far. It's not easy getting involved in the education of whoever it is, males or females, and they're doing it on such a large platform and putting a lot of effort in. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts from them and accepts from all of the listeners today who have obviously tuned in. So I hope that you find today's talk beneficial, inshallah. So, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So I'm going to obviously be discussing anxiety and stress, especially during examinations, and how you can, inshallah, cope with this, whether you're a parent listening or whether you are a student or whether you're both. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, you should be able to benefit. So the first thing I'm going to do is just explain to our listeners what anxiety is. So anxiety itself is an emotion that you feel, and this is characterized by feelings of tension, or if you have worried thoughts, and physical changes as well, for example, increased blood pressure. People with anxiety disorders usually have recurring intrusive thoughts or concerns, and they may avoid certain situations out of worry. You may also have physical symptoms such as sweating, trembling, dizziness, or a rapid heartbeat. And similarly, if you look at the core definition of the term stress, it's the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. Now, first of all, let's have a little look at the signs. You might be listening and thinking, how would a person know if they were under, either of these emotions or both of them? If they were feeling anxiety or if they were feeling stressed, how would you know? Or if you're a parent thinking, if my child was feeling like this, how would I know? So some of the most common symptoms are that, your children or young people would start to worry quite a lot. They'd feel quite tense. They may say that they've got a stomachache or a headache, and in an unusual situation where it's not normal for them to feel like this. You might notice they're not sleeping very well. They might be quite irritated generally when you're trying to speak to them and in everyday life. They might start eating less, or they might start eating unnecessarily a lot. So whatever's not normal for them, it would be out of character. So if they usually eat less and suddenly they start eating more, it could be vice versa. They won't enjoy activities that they had previously enjoyed. And they might be negative in themselves and have quite a low mood. They might also talk about feeling hopeless about the future. Now, it's really, really important when you see any of these signs, alone or together, to recognize them. That's the most important thing, first of all. Sometimes we go about living our daily life and we're so busy, especially in this fast-paced society that we're living in, that you might not notice these signs either in yourselves or in your children. So be aware that if anything changes, is it one of these signs? If it is, and you feel like, actually, I think me or my child are going through anxiety or stress during the exam times, especially, the most important thing you can do, first of all, is have somebody talk to them. And this could be yourself as a parent, a tutor that they trust, a friend, if they've got peers that they can trust as well, that you can share these worries with and keep things into perspective. Try to be involved in your child's education as much as possible. Again, as parents, it's really easy to sometimes overlook when a child's feeling like this. So it's our job so that we are quite aware of any changes in our child and what's going on in their life. If they've got an exam coming up, you should be aware of that and know when their exams are, which days they're at, which exam is it. The next point is for making sure that your child eats well. Again, a balanced diet is vital for your children's health, especially during exam periods. And the reason I'm saying this is because sometimes children stay up, or especially teens, or even yourselves, if you've got an exam and you might start drinking lots of caffeine to try and stay awake. You might have high energy drinks, for example, Coca-Cola or sweets or chocolate, or even fast food, burgers, chips. And this actually makes you hyperactive. It makes you irritated, and it can make you have mood swings. So you should try as much as you can to try and have healthy eating for yourselves, for your children, for your family, but especially during exam times. And this is something maybe you didn't think that it's got a big deal on their exam or their well-being, but actually it does. Another one is sleep. The reason sleep is so important is because it improves thinking and concentration. Most teenagers will need between 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night. And especially during exams, teenagers sometimes have the habit of trying to stay awake and trying to cram revision in on the last minute, which is going to then obviously have an impact on them the next day and on their performance during the exam as well. So you should allow about half an hour between your child winding down after they've studied or used a computer or a screen and going to bed to help them really maximize their sleeping time. So don't get into the awful routine of just finishing your studies, closing your book and jumping into bed, or even worse, having your study book in your bed. Try and get away from that. And if you can, not even have the study area in the bedroom. If space allows it, you should definitely have this in a different part of the house, okay? And I'm going to come to what students can do in terms of effective revision later on. But I just want to say, if your child is staying up all night, in order to revise, this is actually a really bad idea. It creates panic. It makes them stressed at the last minute, and they will have a poor performance the next day. So you could do whatever you can do, inshallah. Obviously, be prepared and have tawakkul on Allah, but also be quite sensible. And as parents, also be aware of what your child is doing. Have they gone to sleep the night before the exam, or are they staying awake? Also, try and cooperate with your children and be quite flexible with them. By this, I mean, if your child is spending the entire day revising or entire day at college or school doing exams, then just give them some relaxation time and don't worry too much about household chores or other work that they were supposed to do, because this is obviously going to have a really massive impact on their health and on their well-being. So give them some flexibility. And you need to stay calm yourself as parents. If you panic, your children will panic. If you are stressed, your children will be stressed. From when they are very young babies, children are very good at picking up cues from parents. And if you try portraying good habits, they'll pick up those good habits. But if you start getting into the habit of being panicky on their behalf because they've got exams, exams are a part of life. Yes, they will happen, but it's how you approach them that matters. So if you create a panic, that's not good for you and it's not good for them as well. And remember, exams don't last forever. Instill confidence in the power of dua and praying, because as Muslims, we ultimately do have the power of dua as well. And give them confidence boosters. Tell them that, inshallah, they'll do their best and you have full confidence in them. And try and get them to get into a nice habit and routine of doing dua before the exam, during the exam, after they've done the exam, and just asking Allah all the time for help, as you would do in any situation as well. Also help them study and ask how you can help them with their revision. Do you need to help them, practically by drawing up a revision timetable? Can they do that themselves? Do they need past papers, or has the school given them? And keep them motivated. Talk about your goals in life. What do you both want out of their life? What do you want them to do? Do they need to do the exams for further studies, for university, etc.? Try and do exercise as well. Exercise is obviously really good for everybody. Exercise boosts energy levels. It clears your mind. It gets rid of stress. It doesn't matter what the exercise is. Exercise can be a 5-10 minute walk, cycling, swimming, football, whatever they can manage. You don't even need to leave the house to do exercise, but it's actually really good for your overall health and well-being, especially if you're a person who's prone to get anxious. And also reward the effort of the exams. If you have a child that they're not really going to be academically extremely able, it doesn't matter. If they have to do the exams, they'll do the exams, and encourage and reward the effort that they put in for the exams, regardless of the end result. At the end of the day, if your child can only get a C grade, that's fine. If they tried their best and that's their ability, not every single child is going to come home with an A grade or with top marks. And absolutely don't pressure them by comparing them to their brothers and sisters and other people in the class. One of the highest complaints that I hear as a parenting coach is when parents compare one child to another child, or to the cousin, or to Mr. whoever's child, or auntie whoever's child, or your cousin's child. It doesn't matter. Your child is your child, and you look at their own capabilities and what they can do, especially during exam time. What can the students themselves do? So if there are students listening, what can you do when it comes to exam time? First and foremost, look at the bigger picture. By this, I mean, what do you want to achieve overall in your life, and how big are the exams in comparison? Okay. And then think about targets that you can set. And we always here with my students, I always get them to set SMART targets. And I'm talking about even my adult students, the ladies. And SMART targets means the target has to be specific. So not just I'm going to revise maths. No, I'm going to revise algebra today, right? It's got to be quite specific. Measurable. How are you going to measure when you've done it? Do you have like 3 papers that you need to do? Whatever it is. Achievable. Can you achieve it within the time frame? So how long are you going to do this revision for? Is it for 1 hour? Is it for a week? What is it? Realistic. Is the target achievable for you? Can you do this paper just in 1 day, or do you need 2 or 3 sessions? And T is time. How long do you need? You need to do this for your own revision all the time. Even for your studies, it's actually really good habit to get into. Don't cram your studies. Absolutely do not cram. Doing a lot on the last minute, the day before the exam or very near to the exam, is not good for you. It'll get you really elevated in your stress and anxiety levels, and you'll feel panicky and you feel like you're going to fail. Pace your revision out, and if you need to work with your parents and let them know which days you're going to be revising for, if you need to be undisturbed for those days. It's always a good idea to have a study buddy. We talk about means a friend or a peer, somebody else who's doing the same exam as you. But be really careful that you're going to be motivating each other to do revision, and not just to be talking and drinking and gossiping and wasting time. That's not good for anybody. So obviously have some relaxation time, but when you're saying you're going to study, actually sit down and study together. So it's always nice to do it in a group, if you're one of those people who work well in groups, where you can discuss your ideas and do brainstorming and revise together. Obviously know your syllabus, know what you are revising for, because seems really obvious. Why wouldn't you know? But sometimes people get into such a panic and anxiety that they either revise too much or not enough, and maybe another syllabus. So you do silly things when you panic and when you're stressed. So be really careful and make sure you're revising exactly what you need to revise. Speak to your tutors, look at the exam board, etc. And the most important thing that I can advise students is the worst case scenario. And by this, I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen if you don't pass the exam? And this is a realistic thing you have to think about before you get yourself extremely heightened and worried. What's the worst case scenario that can happen? Does it mean you can't get onto your degree? Does it mean you won't get a job? You need to decide this, so that if it goes wrong, qaddar Allah, if you've tried your best and you've done everything you can you do it again? Can you do something different? Do you have another route lined up? You need to be really sure about what you can do and next, and have your options open, so that in case you do not do well in an exam, you know that what you can do instead. Okay, and that's a really, really important thing to know as well. Okay. Another really important point is for parents or students yourselves, if you're students, to seek professional help if you need it. If you need help with your tutoring, there is no shame in asking for help. Ask for help if it's going to be through your parents or your teachers or other students or even older students who have already done exams. Please seek help. If you need mental health, like you need to go to the doctors because you're really emotionally stressed and you've got anxiety, sometimes in our community, it's like seen as a stigma attached to getting professional help and going to the doctor. Please don't feel like that. And, you know, if you can clearly see yourself or your children are that ill, and you shouldn't be ill during exams, but like I said, you should have a little level of stress. Everybody does, but you shouldn't get to a point where you're really ill and you're not eating and you're not sleeping. If it's that bad and you've got a combination of one or all of these factors, definitely seek medical help. Okay. And some children will feel better when the exams are over, but sometimes people don't feel better when they're over. They'll continue to stress. So if you feel like you or your child's anxiety or low mood is severe, or that it's, you know, persisting and carrying on, or that it's interfering with their everyday life, then you need to seek GP. Okay, go to your doctors and find out what it is that you can do if it gets that bad. Sorry, so now what I'm going to do is just give some practical tips to students themselves as to what they can do to make sure that they're doing the best possible. The first and best tip I can give you is time. Use time wisely. Look way in advance before it comes up to the exam what you need to do and how much time you need to spend to do it, because it's really easy to say, oh, I'll do it next week and next week, and before you know it, it'll be too late. So definitely space out what you need to do. When you revise, use different combination of strategies. So use notes, talk, use mind maps, use diagrams, use different things. The reason I'm saying this is because our brain is responsive to different ways of learning. So you shouldn't never just read it out of a book or write it down. And I'm sure you all know these tips, but try and make it as interactive as possible. So do like a combination of different things. Write down sticky notes, stick them on your fridge, stick them on your bed, wherever you need to remind yourself. Use acronyms to remember things. So these are all, you'll find loads of these practical advices online, but definitely mix up your revision style. Don't just stick to reading out of a book or just writing notes. Definitely do some sort of discussion, obviously Q&As, past papers, writing sticky notes, all of these different things, use them. Also, be sensible and don't do too many different topics at the same time. So if you know you've got an exam with 3 or 4 different topics, do rotate them in terms of how you are going to actually revise for them, so that you feel confident going in that I've actually done as much revision as I can and I've covered different areas as much as I can as well. The day before the exam, this is the advice we were given when I was at school, and I've always stuck to it. It's actually really good advice. The day before the exam, our teachers said to us, don't revise, do the opposite, which might sound a bit strange because you might think, well, why wouldn't I? But if you've, inshallah, done the strategies that I've said and revised from before and given yourself enough time, the night before, our teachers used to say, do something calming and relaxing, you know, read a book, just relax, have a hot bath, whatever you need to do. Obviously, look over your notes, but don't sit for hours and use that as a revision period. Just brush up if you need to on your knowledge. But the night before, you should be in a state of relaxation yourself, so that inshallah you have a good night's sleep, and then when you wake up you're refreshed to go in and do the exam to the best of your ability as well. So that's a practical tip. When you have finished the exam, forget about it. Don't spend ages discussing with somebody else, what did you write for question 4? Oh my goodness, I think I've failed. I think I've missed this question. I think I answered the wrong question in that. It's done. It's not in your hands anymore. Once you close the paper and you've left the examination hall and your children have left the examination hall, it's okay if you ask them, you know, how did your exam go, obviously. But if you can clearly see they're upset, don't dwell on it. Obviously, do a different strategy for the next one. Try and make sure they're more prepared. But the worst thing you can do is go back and spend ages wasting time looking at the done exam notes and think, I didn't write this, so I should have done that. Because what is that going to do? It's going to add to your anxiety, and it's going to add to your stress. And all you'll do is think about, waste time thinking about an exam that you've already done. So that's not in your control. When the results come out, go with a positive attitude and a positive mindset. If you have truly tried your best, you've put in all the hard work and preparation, and inshallah, you'll get the results that you want. But if you don't, please, please don't think it's the end of the world. Really, it's not. There's so many other things you can do instead. And you don't know, maybe from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you weren't meant to go past that exam. Don't think negatively, because that's just going to make you feel worse. Just think, okay, it didn't go as I wanted it to. Now, what can I do next? And if it did go well, inshallah, I hope everybody's exams do go well, then praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because how fortunate are the believers? When we've got a problem, we have patience and we endure it. When something good happens, we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we get reward for being in either situation. So if it didn't go your way, or if you're finding it really hard, or your children are, just be patient, make lots of dua, and do as much as you can practically. But if it doesn't, then please don't be too stressed and too worried and compare them to everybody else, because at that time, and I'm not saying this lightly, at that time it can seem the end of the world, and that you can seem really down and really upset, but you can make yourself more ill, more anxious, and more stressed by thinking negatively. The best thing you can do is think positively and think, okay, what are the next steps? What do I need to do now? And you do those steps, inshallah, and everything will work out. And maybe you'll not feel better that day or the next day or the next day, but you will with time. Okay, so don't ever feel like if you didn't do so well at one specific exam period or exam time, it's the end of the world. It isn't. And I know in certain countries that there is a pressure around exam time. There's a pressure to perform. There's a pressure to be academic. And we've become a society where we're just pressuring our children and ourselves so much that you don't have time to be human beings and do all the other normal things as children or as adults. So don't neglect those things. Once the exams are over, go for a nice picnic or a holiday, or to the park or to your relative's house, whatever you want to do, and just relax, because you deserve that as human beings. It's not all about work, study, and becoming workaholic, and just 24/7 revising. No, give your children and yourselves a chance to relax, because it's stressful for children, but it's actually also stressful for parents, because sometimes you don't sleep at night thinking that next day is your child's exam, but you need time to wind down. And this is really important for your emotional and your mental health and your overall well-being as well. So don't discard that. You need that time to get out of the mindset that, okay, exam period is over now. And that'll be really useful and helpful for you as well, inshallah. So these are the main points, inshallah. Hope you found these useful. If you want to keep in touch with me, just feel free to keep in touch with me in any way that you want to, or just take a screenshot, inshallah. Jazakum Allahu khairan. I don't know if you want to ask any questions, sister.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Sister, Jazakallah khair. That was a very nice, way of putting things, and especially in a country like India, where exams are very pivotal, and the times around the exams, I know because my children go through, the whole ordeal of studying for a test and exam. Now, the thing is, alhamdulillah, it's not just, we don't just follow this pattern for the exam stress and fear I'm talking about, only for the, the older children, even the younger ones are feeling it, so I'm hoping there's a lot of, teachers also on this panel who can actually help them and make sure that the studying process itself is easier, especially after the lockdown, when things are resuming back to normal. Everything seems relatively new when compared to what we had actually, been used to before. So, it's a whole process of learning again. So, Jazakallah khair, sister. I think it's a very nice way that you have, and I was just thinking about this concept of relaxing before the exam. It's always good to keep your mind free and, tension free, rather than bombarding it with too many things and thoughts at one point, because at that point you just end up more nervous and anxious, and you might as well just, you would have probably not done as expected. Alhamdulillah, there's one question from a sister. She's asking how to motivate ourselves, as it's been really long since we touched books because of pandemic. Self-motivation it's really, one of those things.
Yeah, actually, that's a really, really good question, sister. I just spoke to somebody yesterday who said that their children are completely demotivated because of the COVID. I think everybody sort of relaxed quite a lot and they weren't in the normal education environment. I would say to stay motivated, in all honesty, sister, get a post-it note, a sticky note or a paper, write down why you are doing the exam, what you want to achieve, and stick it on your fridge or on your bedroom door, anywhere where you'll see it every day, and that will written reminder from you to you will be a good motivator. Why are you doing it? And think of the alternative. If you didn't do it, are you going to be happy or not happy? Do you need to do it? So if you need to do the exam, some things we don't like doing, but you know, you have to, it's life, you have to face them and you have to do them. Write down why you need to do it and just stick it somewhere you can see it every day. Look at it and read it every day, sister, until it's done.
Right. Alhamdulillah. There's another sister's asking, sister, is it Islamic to write exams? Is it Islamic to write exams under so much of stress?
You know your own capabilities, sister. So if you feel like, I think what you mean is if you feel like the stress is so bad that it's affecting your health, then that's a decision you have to make. Then if you feel like that exam is going to make you so stressed that you don't want to do it, then don't do the exam, but think about what are the alternative options and obviously speak to your own tutor and your course directors. But on the other side, as a Muslim, I'll say to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only burdens you with what you can bear. Okay. And Allah doesn't burden people beyond their capabilities. Everybody will go through something that is a trial in their life. Okay. And everybody will. And that was what my podcast talk was about this week, actually. So maybe the exams are a trial for you, and know that there's an end point. If it's finishing in 1 month, so just mark that in your calendar and say, you know what, it will be finished in 1 month. And alhamdulillah, I'm just going to try my best. So if it's something you really do need to do, have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do your absolute best, and then when it's done, that's it, you've finished. And it's, think of it like your own trial. But if you're getting that ill where it's going to really, really affect your health, then speak to whoever you need to speak to, your tutors or your family, and don't do it. If it's coming, please don't feel like just you're rushing through it to get a certificate at the end if you don't need that certificate and it's going to make you extremely ill in getting it. So, you know, I can't answer that without knowing you in person, sister. So definitely speak to someone though.
Right. So this is something that is a topic on its own. How do we manage time? How do we manage time during exams?
Really good question. Really, really good question. Break it down, sister. So in one day, how many hours are you gonna spend for your revision? You've probably got lots of other things to do in a day as well. So whether that's in the morning after Fajr time or whether that's in the night Isha time, it depends. It's different from country to country. So for example, here in the UK, you would normally sit in the evening when the kids come back from school to do, you know, your revision and your exams. But maybe in India, you might have chance to do it early in the morning. Block out those 1 or 2 hours. Don't do it in too much of a long period. So even if you block out 1 hour, sister, after 20 minutes, you do need to get up and have a little break. So, you know, either if you just walk around the room or get out of the room and come back, go and get a tea, go and get a coffee, a drink, water, whatever you need, have a snack, have fruit. So sit for a period of time, block the time out, don't do anything else, decide yourself how much time you need. It's based on how much revision you have. If it's 1 hour, block out 1 hour. If it's 2 hours, but get into a nice rhythm and routine. Your body will be thankful for it. You'll get into a comfortable routine and you'll do much, much better because you'll know every morning at this time, for example, 6 till 8, I'm going to be doing my revision. And within the revision, I have 2 hours. You know, use the SMART targets that I was talking about. Within the 2 hours, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 topics. Here they are in front of me. Tick them off as you go along so you can feel a sense of accomplishment and achievement as well once you've crossed or ticked off a topic that you've completed.
Yeah, the checklist is actually a very good motivator in itself. You know, when we see that we're crossing out the, you know, the things that we wanted to complete, and we see that itself is a satisfaction on its own.
Absolutely. That's what I do with my own daughter. I've printed off the syllabus for her and I get a highlighter and I just mark off when she's done. She does it herself, so I don't sit with her when she's revising. I just come and ask her what she's completed, and then I just tick it off. And as human beings, you're psychologically wired to respond in this way. It's actually a nice feeling. Sometimes we say to do that in in your daily routine, if you just write a list of everything you need to do and then just tick it off as you've done it, so you can see that you have done things throughout the day.
Right. Yes. Yes, absolutely. There's another question, sister. So one is asking, people take the wrong ways to achieve high marks and not wanting to go against Allah's order. We don't. So how do we motivate ourselves to not get disappointed when we receive less marks, even though we worked hard?
Really, really good question. That this is a problem, isn't it? In some societies where it's actually easy to cheat and go the wrong way. At the end of the day, sister, I'll tell you this: whoever is cheating, you're cheating yourself, nobody else, and they're questionable, and they're answerable for their actions and their deeds, but you are not. Neither are you going to be questioned about them. Neither are they going to be questioned about you. So don't worry about other people. And one of my friends in India said this as well, that her children had tried really hard and scored less, even though that they naturally, didn't cheat, and they revised and they earned it. It doesn't matter if the other child or the other student seems like they got higher marks. You be content in your heart with your conscience that I did my best and I didn't cheat, and that's enough. Don't do it to prove it to anybody else. So if you got the 60s, 70s, 80s, that's fine. Be happy with it and move on and say, Alhamdulillah, I tried my best, I didn't cheat. So even if they don't get caught in the dunya, they will eventually get caught at some place, right? And you're not answerable for what they do. So don't be concerned and just be happy and be satisfied. That satisfaction comes from within your own actions. So once you've done everything the right way and the halal way, just have that satisfaction and say, Alhamdulillah, I've done my best and I've tried my best. And don't be worried about what they're doing. That's not your responsibility.
Right, alhamdulillah. Okay, so we'll have one last question, and this is my personal, question that I have, a doubt that I have. So, parents of many children, and small children who require help. So, first of all, how do we calm down and focus on making sure that they are not overwhelmed? And so, any advice that you can give for parents of young mothers, young children, especially?
Yeah, definitely. So the most important thing is to stay calm and relaxed yourself. So sometimes when we say we've got exam, it's a fine balance. Obviously you want the children to study and not be that relaxed. They're not doing any studies, but at the same time, don't nag them and say exams to such an extent that they can't see or hear anything else. So make it balanced. Have a time of the day where they are going to do their studies, and actually talk to them. Sit down and say to them, this is your exam time. This is why you need to do good in your exams, because otherwise you won't pass 10th grade, 11th grade, whatever it is, and go into the next year. So, we are going to change the routine a little bit at home. You're not going to have that much TV time or playtime because you're going to be expected to do revision. Once it's done, give them a real, tangible reward to look forward to. So don't lie to them if you're not going to do it, but say to them, in 1 month's time, when your exams are over, inshallah, we'll go to this place or that place, or whatever's nice for them, a treat for both, for the whole family, for you and for them. Tell them beforehand. Say, we're only going to go there if you sit down and if you do the exams, and then approach it in a sensible manner without getting too stressed and bombarding them with exams every day. So it's just a really fine balance. So speak to them, communicate with them, let them know. You have to, obviously, if they're very little, guide them and make sure that they've done whatever they need to do in terms of revision, and obviously that they're eating well and that they're sleeping well. But also let them know that there's a reason that you're doing it, not just because you're going to treat them, but because they need to do it in order to go to the next class at school. And if they don't, they'll end up doing the whole year again. And would they like to do that? Sometimes it's good to be honest and open with children, because sometimes we think they're really, really little and they won't understand, but you would be surprised. Children understand and they pick up a lot. So if you sit down and actually have a discussion with them and make it clear to them that they need to do this, then inshallah that should be good for both of you.
Jazakallah khairan, dear sister, for patiently answering all of the questions that were out there from our audience. We're really grateful for your presence amidst your busy schedule, my dear sister. Jazakallah khairan once